Hey there. All right. I want to talk game design. All right. So that's what this ramble is going to be about. Probably going to have it in the title, but yeah, it's going to be a ramble. But I'm also going to be tapping on this sea kelp body wash. I want to talk about a particularly annoying game design element, a feature of a lot of games. It's in a lot of games, and I think it's really bad and annoying. And maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't, but we'll see. Anyway, there's no need to be like mysterious about it. It's minimaps. I hate minimaps in games. I feel like they are really detrimental to game design. And I understand why they exist, but I think there's many more elegant solutions that could exist, especially nowadays where, the limitations of modern game engines and modern hardware are, not as severe as they may have used to been, I'm going to split this into like two parts, all right? So the first part, which is the part that I don't necessarily, I don't feel as strongly about the first part. Second part's going to be the part that I feel more strongly about. But anyway, so the first part's going to be talking about mini-maps in like competitive games, so like Call of Duty, Battlefield, typical like shooter games, that sort of thing. I still think they're bad in those games, but I don't have as big of an issue with them. And then I'm going to talk about mini-maps in more like immersive games, typically single-player games, but maybe not always a single-player game, but still a game where the purpose isn't to be, hyper-competitive or anything. It's just to play a game, whatever, So first we're going to talk about competitive games. Like I said, I don't feel nearly as strongly about my distaste for minimaps when it comes to competitive games. I still think that they're bad, but I don't have as big of an issue with them simply because, well, we'll get to that in the next section. For now, let's just talk about the things I don't like about them when it comes to competitive games. It's just too easy. It's too easy. All right. Anyone that acts like being able to look at the minimap and like see the red dots, to see where the enemies are. Anyone who acts like that's like a skill that takes a lot of time to learn, or like it's hard at all. Like, no, it's not. It's just not. It's the easiest and arguably like the most broken feature of like, that's like a staple in a lot of competitive games. Like, oh yeah, a person shot their gun and now you know exactly where they are. It's like, how is that good game design? It's funny too, because when a franchise has that as like a staple, for instance, the Call of Duty franchise, with Modern Warfare 2, they got rid of that. They made it so that if you shot your gun without a suppressor, which is typically like the common way that you counteract that aspect of the game, right? If you use a suppressor, you don't show up on the minimap. Wow. But in Modern Warfare 2, they made it so that you could shoot your gun and you wouldn't show up on the minimap anyway, and people freaked out. They freaked out so much that they actually changed it back so that you show up on the minimap when you shoot your gun without a suppressor. But it's just too strong. It's too strong. And it's funny because a lot of people, whenever you play a game that has some kind of like wall hack ability, that's becoming more of a common thing as like, hero shooters are becoming a good bit more popular as of late. Where like you play a specific character that has some kind of specific ability, and quite often, because there's only so many abilities that people can think up, typically you're going to see some character that has the ability to see enemies through walls, whether that be like an active like silhouette of them through the wall at all times, or if it just like pings their location through the wall in some way. Either way, it's pretty common, you know. It's in a lot of games. You know what I mean when I say like a wall hack ability. The funny thing is that whenever there is a character with a wall hack ability in some competitive game, typically people will complain about it because they'll say it's overpowered, because of course it's overpowered. Knowing exactly where a person is at all times through any amount of wall or whatever visual obstruction, you know. It's a powerful feature that probably shouldn't be in the game. Especially when there's no way to like counteract it, or like there's no detriment to using it, you know what I mean? So it's like if I use my character with a wall hack ability, it's not like the person that I know the location of also knows where I am, because then it'd be competitively fair, you know. Typically it's very one-sided, so I know where they are and they have no idea where I am. They probably don't even know that I know where they are. So I find it interesting that people will complain about that, but then will complain that things like red dots on the minimap aren't a part of the game, because it is the same exact thing. It just is. It's just wall hacks. You just know exactly where they are. I guess the one difference is that the enemy player has to shoot their gun in order for them to show up on the map, but like that's the point of the game, is to shoot people. Like, you're gonna be doing it a lot. And then the obvious argument is that, well, if you don't like it so much, then just use a suppressor. And it's like, well, yeah, I do, but like, that's shit game design. It doesn't make it any less shit that I have to work around some bullshit mechanic. There's a great example as to why this doesn't work with the Battlefield franchise. With Battlefield 3 and 4, the games worked the way that most people would expect, you know, where you shoot an unsuppressed weapon and you show up as a red dot for some period of time on the minimap. But then when Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5 came out, the developers realized that, well, because those are historic games and suppressors didn't really exist back then, that they would be, you know, they wouldn't be giving the players the ability to counteract that aspect of the game. And so in Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 5, you don't show up as a red dot on the minimap when you shoot your gun unsuppressed, as I think it should be. And then along came 2042, which, I mean, it was a mess in all ways. But they brought back the red dots on the minimap when you shoot a weapon unsuppressed, and it's just overpowered. Everyone knows exactly where you are at all times. Not to mention, I mean, Battlefield 2042 is really bad about being spotted on the minimap in general. I mean, like literally everything in that game will spot you on the minimap. And so players will basically always know where you are at all times. It's just not fun. It's just not a good game design element, in my opinion. I don't want a person to know exactly where I am just because I played the game, you know? It's like, what did they do to earn that, you know? If I shoot my gun, oh, I was a dumbass because I shouldn't have shot my gun, you know? That's on me. I made a mistake. Truly. I also want to point out, and this is specific to Call of Duty. I'm gonna have to cut that out. I haven't played all of the Call of Duties, but the last one I played was Modern Warfare 2. And in that game, there are two versions of the UAV. The UAV is a staple of Call of Duty at this point. It's in every game in some capacity. It's not always called the UAV, but it's in every game. And the UAV, it shows you where all the enemies are on the minimap without them even having to shoot their weapons. It's a very powerful streak. But then there's also typically some advanced UAV, and the advanced UAV is better because it can't be shot down and it lasts longer. And it also shows you the direction that the enemy is facing rather than just their position on the map. So you know their position and the direction they're facing. Sounds great. The advanced UAV is typically like one of the higher streaks in the game. Like typically almost the highest streak in the game. So it's clearly intended to be a very powerful streak. Except for the fact that it's actually worse than the regular UAV because it doesn't tell you their elevation relative to you. The regular UAV, it shows them as a little diamond on the map, and then it has a little arrow on the top or bottom if they are higher than you or lower than you in terms of like elevation on the map. So if you're in like a building, for instance, and the red dot shows up and they're on the second floor and you're on the first floor, you'll know that because it'll have a little diamond with a little arrow on the top. Despite the advanced UAV being much harder to obtain and supposedly being better in every way, it doesn't tell you their elevation relative to you. So you're trading out the ability to know their elevation to now knowing their direction that they're facing. But I would much rather know their elevation than their direction. Direction doesn't really matter. Call of Duty is far too like fast-paced and thoughtless of like a game to make use of the information of which direction they're facing. Like, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't factor in. The maps are too small. They're too limited in size to be able to like take that into account and like use that to your advantage to like do like a wide flank in a direction they're not looking or something to like sneak up on them. Because typically they're probably just going to be camping in some room that only has like one entrance anyway. So it's like, there's only one way in. It doesn't matter, if I know where they're looking. No, that's just a small pet peeve with Call of Duty in general. I don't know why they do that. They could easily have the icon show elevation as well as direction. It wouldn't be that hard, but they haven't done that. But yeah, when it comes to competitive games that either just don't feature a mini-map at all, just play better. Or the ones, like I said, that do feature a mini-map but just don't, make you show up on the mini-map whenever you shoot your weapon. They just play better. Because it allows you to actually play the game without being punished for playing the game. And unfortunately, that's a pretty common aspect just because of like, Call of Duty does it. So pretty much all the other first-person shooters do it because everyone has to copy Call of Duty because they're the biggest first-person shooter franchise on the planet. Honestly, that's probably not even true. There's probably some like Chinese first-person shooter that's like has way bigger player counts. That's at a completely different market. I'm completely unaware of that market. So that's my competitive. It's like I don't like it personally. I just think it's a bad design element, but I can get over it because those games aren't meant to be taken super seriously. You play them for like an hour, you run around, you shoot people, you don't put any thought into it. That's it. it doesn't really, ruin the experience per se. It just makes it a little less fun, I guess, in a way, a little less interesting. Because it makes the game easier. That's the epitome of it. That's the end of it. I don't think there's anyone out there that would disagree that the minimap makes the game easier. When you know exactly where your enemy is, typically it's going to be easier to defeat them. And that's just less fun because it takes a lot of the work out of it for me, the player. But so that's the competitive. But when it comes to like immersive games, games where you're meant to play it and get immersed into the game and like take it seriously, that's when minimaps really suck. They're just terrible. I hate them, and they're really common. I'm going to be using the Rockstar games, so like GTA and Red Dead Redemption, as big examples here, because I think that they suffer from this potentially the most, like, egregiously. But just know that there are plenty of games that fall into this category where they feature a minimap and it comes at the complete detriment of the experience. And it's pretty simple to understand why. I'm just going to come out and say it. It's just because when I'm playing these games, I want to be looking at this gorgeous world that they've created. They've poured thousands, tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of man hours into this world, all the little details. And instead of looking at that, I'm following a little line in the bottom corner on a little 2D minimap. It's just awful. And I feel like at this point in gaming, it doesn't need to be that way. Maybe like years and years ago, they didn't have the resources. It would have been too big of a hit to the performance of the game to like include in-game systems that would help the player navigate just naturally by playing the game. So they used the minimap to make up for that, But at this point, that surely cannot be stated as like an excuse, Like I said, Rockstar games are particularly egregious for this for a couple reasons. First reason being that, people have talked before about how Rockstar's mission structure is really stupid, where like when you're in the open world, you can basically do whatever the game will allow you. You can kill whoever you want, you can go wherever you want. You can play the game basically whatever you want to do, but when you're in a mission, if you don't play the mission exactly like Rockstar wants you to, you get the fuck out. You will fail that mission in a second if you don't play it exactly how they want you to. And quite often that means going to precise locations in the game world. And if you don't have the minimap on and you don't know where they want you to go, then you're fucked. You can't play the game, you can't progress. It's a literal like stop. It's a hard barrier. Because the in-game characters, they'll be like, go find a hiding spot. And it's like, all right, I'm going to go find a hiding spot. And then you go somewhere that you think is like, okay, this seems pretty secluded or whatever. And then it's like, nah, not there. You got to go to this specific spot. And that happens in like so many of the missions. It's in like every single mission. You have to do things very precisely to what they want you to do. And so when you try to turn the minimap off and just absorb yourself into the game, you just can't. GTA 5 suffers from this as well, especially when you're in a police chase. Police chases in GTA should be like the pinnacle moment of the game, right? Because the whole idea is that you're a criminal and you're going to get, in a cop chase with the cops. It's an exciting moment, except in GTA 5, it's not exciting at all, because instead of looking at the world and bobbing and weaving through traffic to try and evade the cops, no, what do? You just look at the map in the corner of your screen to see where the cops are and to see their cone of vision so that you stay out of it at all times. I swear, when I'm playing GTA and I'm in a cop chase, I'm not even looking at the game. I'm just looking at the little corner icons. It's such a shame. There's nothing that pulls me out of a game more than constantly having to look at the map. And like I said, even in those games where you can turn it off, it's clearly not, like, the game is clearly not designed to accommodate that decision. If you try to evade the cops in GTA 5 without looking at the map, you will never be able to evade the cops. Unless you use some cheese tactic, like going into the sewers or something, because like the cops literally can't follow you there. So yeah, sure, you could do that. But I don't want to be forced to always go to the sewer to evade the cops if I just don't want to look at the map, or I want to be able to turn the map off, you know? Talk about limiting game design. But yeah, if you're just driving around like the city streets and you try to lose the cops with the map turned off, it's never going to work. You'll never be able to. At least if you have like 3 or more stars, you know. And like I said, I feel like at this point, there should be plenty of ways to get around it. In GTA specifically, I mean, this wouldn't work for every single game, but in GTA, you know, you can like set waypoints and stuff on the map, and then you'll have the little mini map in the corner that shows you the path you have to follow. So whenever you're like trying to go to a mission location, right, you set the waypoint and then you're just looking at the map as you drive around the city. It's not really that engaging because you're not even looking at the world that you're supposed to be taking in, you know. That's the whole point of the game. But, you know, why not just make it so that it's like a GPS, you know, where it audibly gives you directions. GTA 5 even features in the little corner of the map, it tells you like the traffic direction you need to go. So like if the next turn you have to make is a right turn, it'll have a little right turn indicator, you know. So I know that the game understands like the directions it would need to give you to get to your destination. So why not just make it like an audible feature, you know? So when I set a waypoint somewhere and I can just drive my car and it'll say, take the next right, you know, pass these lights and at the next one take a left or something, you know. It's like, you know, like a real GPS. Whenever you set, you don't have to look at your phone whenever you use your GPS in real life because it talks to you. Just do that. That seems like the perfect situation, because then I'm just looking at the world. In fact, you have to look at the world because to make sense of the audible directions, you have to be paying attention to the world. To know that the next right is that one, you have to have been paying attention the whole time. It seems perfect to me, but as far as I know, no game has ever done that. Obviously, that wouldn't work as well for a game like Red Dead Redemption, which takes place in the past. They didn't have GPS back then. But there are subtle ways around it. For instance, in Red Dead Redemption, you're almost always, you know, traveling with someone. In the GTA game, in the Rockstar games, you're almost always traveling with someone when it comes to being in a mission, you know. So just have them tell you where to go, you know, like if you don't want to make it a GPS, just have the person be like, all right, up here, take a left and go past the river or whatever, you know. It's like, just have them give me step-by-step directions as I'm doing the mission, you know. And the Rockstar mission style is so linear anyway that it would be pretty easy for them to like just hard code that into the game. So like, they know the exact path you're going to take, because if you don't take that path, you fail the mission. if you're gonna make the missions that linear anyway, at least take advantage of it by making it so that I don't have to look at the map whenever I do anything in your game. When I think of some of my favorite games, some of the games that I've played more than any other, a lot of them don't have a minimap. Or if they do have a minimap, you just don't really need to use it. So for instance, like Skyrim. Skyrim is one of my most played games. It's a great game. I enjoy it. Obviously it has flaws, but it's a great game. No minimap. No minimap. And guess what? The sense of getting lost in that game is amazing. In fact, it's almost more fun to get lost in Skyrim because of all the things that you'll find along the way. At no point when playing Skyrim was I like, damn, I really need a minimap to know where I'm going. It's like, no, you just always know where you're going. And I mean, you have the little compass up at the top, but you just like, you look at what, like the direction you need to go and you just head in that direction. And then you're looking at the game world. It just works well. When it comes to the more competitive games, another one of the games I've played more than any other. In fact, it's actually, according to Steam, my most played game of all time is Rainbow Six Siege. It's a highly competitive first-person shooter that doesn't feature a minimap. Wow. Because imagine how broken it would be to show up as a red dot in a game where if you get shot in the head with one bullet through any number of surfaces, you die instantly. And when it comes to Rainbow Six Siege, who are the characters that everyone hates the most? Oh, it's the characters that can see you through walls and things. What other games have I played a lot that don't have a minimap? I played The Division a lot, which does have a minimap, I'm pretty sure, but you never need to use it. When it comes to like setting a waypoint in that game, the waypoint is like a physical object in the real world. The UI in The Division is pretty cool, honestly. I like the UI in that game. So to follow the line, you're not looking at the map, you're looking at the game world. So it's kind of a hybrid system. It's not as immersive as like being told by like the NPCs where to go would be, in my opinion. But it's still far superior to having a minimap and just looking at the minimap. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I think the minimap in The Division is like actually pointless. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't even think it like displays the buildings or anything. I think it's just your dot in like a big empty circle, and then if there's like enemies, it'll like give you like a slice of pie that tells you like the direction the enemies are in. So it's more of like a compass than a minimap. But I could be wrong about that. It's been a long time since I played that game. It's been a long time since I played Rainbow Six Siege too. It's pretty crazy that that's my most played game of all time. It's the only game on Steam that I have over 1,000 hours in. It's like 1,050 or something. And yet I haven't played that game since like 2018. That was the last time I played Rainbow Six Siege. So that's been like 6 years. 6 years since I played that game, and it's still somehow my most played game of all time. I played that game a lot back in the day. I mean, I've played like Battlefield 1, Battlefield 5, and I enjoy those games a lot, so that's kind of an example of a game that has a minimap, but it's easy to ignore because it doesn't really do much of anything. In that case, I feel like it's better to just get rid of it entirely. But yeah, I just hate minimaps. I think they suck. They just do. I don't want to look at a little corner icon. I don't. When I'm playing your game, I want to look at the game. I don't want to look at the corner. I want to look at the game. All right. I don't get it from like a development perspective. Imagine being one of like the environment artists in one of these like massive games. You know, chances are GTA 6 is going to be exactly the same as GTA 5 in a lot of ways. Obviously, it's going to be more detailed, higher fidelity, but because of the success of GTA 5, they're probably not going to attempt to stray too far from that formula, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing, you know? When it comes to big studios, they're typically pretty shy when it comes to trying new things. So chances are that GTA 6 is going to feature the same system where you've got a little mini-map and the game tells you precisely where to go, and if you don't go there, you're fucked. What a shame. I mean, imagine being an artist in that game, pouring so much effort and time into the animations, the dynamic systems like the weather systems and the like physics systems of the game to make sure everything interacts perfectly so that it all looks so amazing. You know, they're saying GTA 6 is going to be a $2 billion game. It costs $2 billion. It's the most expensive entertainment project of all time. Only for the developers to also implement a little mini-map that will actually be the thing that the player is looking at like 80% of the time. Like, what a slap in the face. I'd be pissed. I would be straight up pissed if I was one of the people on those teams that just has all of my hard work just completely bypassed. Like, how many things are people going to miss in that game? How many things have I missed playing games like GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2? Beautiful games. Red Dead Redemption 2 especially, they've taken huge strides in making that game world look and feel alive, and it's so detailed. And then I'm just sitting there looking at the minimap. I was playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and they give you the option to turn off the map. And I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to try it. And it just doesn't work. The game doesn't work. You can't play it that way. I was constantly, when I turned off the minimap, I was constantly using the weapon wheel, because when you use the weapon wheel with the minimap turned off, it shows you the minimap in the corner. So I was still just, it was arguably worse, because instead of just being able to glance down at the corner, I was bringing the whole game to like a slow motion pause for a moment while I would like caught my bearings to see where things were. It's awful. There has to be a more elegant solution to the problem of just getting the player where they want to go, you know? Because that's the thing too. It's like, I feel like if you boil it down, you know, what does a mini-map accomplish? The mini-map gets the player to where the game wants them to go. But it doesn't help the player get to where the player wants to go, you know? It just doesn't. Because if I want to go somewhere, I'll go there by just playing the game. I need the minimap only when the game wants me to go to a very specific location and they're being too ambiguous about it in the game itself. So I just have to follow their stupid fucking little line. When you boil it down, I feel like there's just no reason to have a minimap. The only type of game that I think actually could genuinely benefit from a mini-map style system is a game like Doom, or like a roguelike dungeon crawler type of game, you know, where you're like the map is purely procedural. It's not meant to be like immersive or anything, you know, you're just kind of going through a big maze of rooms. In that case, a mini-map could be pretty helpful, because you don't want to just spend all of your time backtracking through a bunch of empty rooms and looking for like the exit or something, you know. So in those games, sure, minimap works well, because it helps the player just get to the finish line, right? But in any other game, I think it's the worst gameplay design of all time. I hate them in every game. In every game I've ever played, I attempt to turn them off, and then if the game doesn't work with the minimap off, I'll just probably get bored of the game and like stop playing it, honestly. Like, I'll try to make it work, and then I'll get frustrated and then turn it back on, and then I'll just realize how much time I'm spending looking at the minimap, and then I'll just stop playing eventually. Ooh, Metal Gear Solid 5. That's another good example of a game that doesn't have a minimap. Huge open world, no minimap. I mean, obviously you can pull up the big map and you'll look at that occasionally, but it's still, you just go. You just play the game in Metal Gear Solid 5. It's a good game. No minimap. But that's my personal opinion. What do you think? Do you think minimaps are cool? If you do, unsubscribe. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. But that was just something I had to get off my chest. It annoys me. Because, like I said, it's so common. It's like such a common thing in video games nowadays. Like almost every game features a minimap to some degree. And it's just like, no. Can we just not? Can you just show me where to go in this beautiful game you've made? How have we advanced so far in graphics, and yet minimaps haven't changed at all since 2000? No one, not a single person has been able to innovate that mechanic. No one has thought up a better idea. Come on, guys. There has to be a more elegant way to handle this problem. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.